You've just accessed Hardware is Forever, your source for the expert insights, ideas, and innovations you need to do more in the electronics manufacturing industry. From optimization to operations, join us as we put the pieces together for a better approach to manufacturing. Let's go.
Welcome back to Hardware is Forever. Jay Patel is the CEO at Amtech. I'm Chris Bentliff, and Jay, we've been talking about Deming's 14 points of management. We've got a really interesting series going on, and today we're talking about number 3, which I think is interesting because there's, I don't know, the potential for maybe a controversial bent to this, because number 3 is cease dependence on inspection to achieve quality.
Yes.
And right away we think, hold on, so we aren't going to care about quality? Or what do you mean we're going to not inspect for quality? So what do you think about that? Because I know that that's a deeper sort of rabbit hole, and I'm excited to go down it. But what do you think Deming means, and how does it connect to, why is that problematic, this idea of dependence on inspection to achieve quality?
Yeah. So first thing I want to talk to you, we've been going down this Deming path, and it's been really an eye-opening and an educative path. And for me, Deming is like my father's wisdom that he was telling me as a teenager, and I didn't want to listen to, but he always right.
That's so great. That's a great analogy.
It's like, yeah, like as a teenager, I didn't want to admit it, but man, like he's right. So it's kind of like the bitter truth, but it's a truth. And going back to this quality inspection, let's go back to this quality inspection thing. Is I think what we did and the way that manufacturing was done, especially when Deming got into it, and I think right now, whether we know it or not, passively Deming has changed us. So maybe our approach is a little bit different to it, and the way that we design our manufacturing processes, or where they're taught, or the way that we approach it has become so ubiquitous that we don't even know that Deming is the one that kind of got to it. But in Deming's era, the boss or the foreman would say, "Hey, I need 20 good widgets per hour," and then it would be up to the employee to give 20 widgets, and they would be paid according to that. So, and then if there were any issues, the foreman would say, "We don't really care, just get us good product." And they would never, and it's like just do a better job, just inspect it, and even if it takes you longer to do it, just make sure you inspect it and get it done. And I think that in a practical situation, that is really flawed. And it's there for a few different reasons. One is because the human condition, like how detailed can we really humans be? Like, there was a study done that says even if humans do visual inspection, they will let 30 things slip all the time. Now, even if you put 4 or 5 different humans together to inspect the same thing, the cost of quality is going to go up for no apparent reason, but you're still going to have slips. So inspection will never, ever get you a good quality product. Even if you want to put multiple people and multiple inspection points in, who's going to pay that? Like my customer wants good quality, but they're not going to pay me to have 5 or 6 inspection points, visual inspection points, or different type of inspection points in the process. It's going to increase the cycle time of the actual production. So, that those inspections take time. So your cycle time increases. Somebody's going to pay for that. And who is going to inspect? And then what is going to be inspected? All that stuff. It's impractical to be able to inspect quality into the product. So even if you tried, you would, to a point, hit limitations, whether there's financial, whether they're time, and whether they're effective or not. So you can't do that. And I think that's where Deming really came in to say you can't, before it was like, okay, we have bad quality product. How do we fix it? We'll have more people take a look at it and make sure we build it the right way. And that was that was just the big, quick solution. And I think Deming came out and said, well, if you are manufacturing product, let's focus on the manufacturing process. So you have to achieve quality output starting at the beginning of the process, which is the manufacturing process. So I think he's the one who kind of stepped back and said, okay, let's design the process so there's less process variability, so we automatically get good quality product at the end. And is that always true? Not necessarily. There's always going to be things that happen that are not there, but at least you can reduce a lot of those defects going down and then compounding defects on top as the product goes down the assembly line.
So one of the things that is coming to mind for me is the conventional sense of inspection is really it's too late to do anything about it. You're already in the past tense. When you're at the end of the assembly line and the thing is wrong, you just got to go back and build another one. And we can all relate to this, whether we have widgets or not. How many times have we just let me have a look at that before you send it out the door, and then we want to scratch and make up a whole bunch of changes. And what I'm hearing you say is, well, with Deming's philosophy, it's get it right at the outset. The process of description, the process of organization, the process of expectations, that has to be figured out first, and then quality almost becomes a positive byproduct of doing that. Am I sort of repeating you in the right way? And then, so how do we do that? That's easy to say, but what are some ways that we can do that?
I think, practically speaking, when we talk about manufacturing and industry, it's difficult, but like, let's talk about cake. All right.
I love talking about cake. I'm with you.
Let's talk about food. All right. So you've obviously, you may be a great baker and not have to buy cake ever. Right. But most of us have bought birthday cakes or cakes for any other event ever, like at some time. Is that correct?
Yes.
So have you ever seen a part of your cake cut out and have somebody taste it so then they can qualify to make sure that the cake is to the right quality?
That's really interesting. That's a great illustration. I'm picturing like a bite out of a slice of cake and then just sort of planted right back in there. Like, nobody look at that, but it passed inspection. We're okay.
Yeah.
You can eat this cake now.
So when we talk about food being mass produced, whether it's bread, whether it's like, there's no way you can inspect the actual product that's getting to the customer.
Right.
That's not an option. So then what do? They start with the recipe and the manufacturing process at the beginning. And I think that's what Deming is trying to say is like, rather than trying to taste every cake to make sure that it's not like, now let's say the cake doesn't taste good. Do you throw the cake away? Like, you got to throw it away. So you're creating all this cake, this factory of cakes or donuts or bread and taking a bite out of every single one of them. And if it doesn't work, you're going to throw them away. And one day I may have a cold and not be able to taste properly. So am I letting good product go out am I letting bad product go out the door? Bad cakes, bad bread, bad tasty stuff out the door. So there's a lot of variability when you have to come into inspection points. And I think that's, if you think about the food, you never find, chunks of like your food have bites in it before it goes out, or taste it. It's just not going to happen, but it does happen. And we'll talk about the next instance of it. But the whole idea is, okay, let's build the recipe correctly so then we can repeat it and get the same outcome. So let's reduce process variability to be able to get the outcome that we want. And that's the recipe that we're talking about. So similarly, apply that same idea to manufacturing in industry. Like when we start out, let's focus on developing the recipe. So then when it comes at the end of the line, we know we have good quality product.
If I extend your analogy of the food, if I'm like in a fine restaurant and I'm opening a brand new restaurant and I've got a new dessert, a cake or something I'm going to try, it's not unusual to sort of beta test that, right? Put that in front of the staff. What do you think? What needs to change? Put it in front of a small audience of close friends and family who maybe can sort of soft open this thing. And then, so you've sort of worked out the kinks. So how does prototyping work into this from a quality management perspective? If we're talking about sort of regulating the process and starting from good, we have to make mistakes at some point, but what I'm hearing you say is make them early on so that by the time you're in production or manufacturing, it's no longer guesswork or let's hope we get it right this time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, going back to the automotive world that we're in, there's an APQP process, there's a PPAP that goes on. And I think some major phases of them is DV, which is design validation to make sure that you've designed the product correctly. And then another major portion of it is called production validation or process validation to make sure that your manufacturing process is set up properly for you to be able to get that. So there are two stages that that contribute to the quality of the product and how it functions is one, the design, and number two, the process that is required to build that in a consistent and repeatable level. So yes, they're not, when you're prototyping, you're not only prototyping to make sure the design is done properly, but you're also prototyping to make sure that your process is under control and does not have that much variability, so you can produce at a mass scale and a repeatable scale.
And as ever, this comes down, I think, let me see what you think, to leadership. If you get this right, if you have these processes understood, if you have everybody understanding how they work and why they work and what we do, it eliminates points of friction like micromanagement. It eliminates points of friction like poor quality, which is exactly what we're talking about. But we have to be able to reverse engineer that all the way at the top to say, have we designed the processes the right way? Have we designed our own internal systems so that we can get to this good, this what we call not just satisfactory, but excellent, because our processes are ready with that. Do you agree with that becomes, as ever, a leadership issue?
Yeah, and I think that's why this is principle 3 and not principle 2. Principle 2 is adopt the new philosophy. So leadership has to adopt the philosophy of this. Then and only then it can be, then and only then can we implement these type of changes.
Great point. Great reminder that these Deming's points are holistic. They all work together, to organize us into a space. So if there's one thing that I should be doing differently, whether I'm in manufacturing or not, or one thing that you have thought or that you have been mindful of from Deming's third point, how would you, I'm putting you on the spot, but conversationally, simply, how would you describe that? The thing I should be doing differently than maybe I have been doing is?
Measure twice, cut once.
Oh, dude, that's great. That is well done on the spot to come up with something that is succinct and perfect for the idea of quality inspection. That's very good. That's a very good analogy. That's good. We're going to continue our conversation with point 4. Jay Patel, as ever, I love your perspective on this stuff. It's always very interesting, the thoughts that you have around this stuff, and I learn a lot from it. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers and followers. Consider becoming one today wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Hardware is Forever is designed, tested, engineered, and built by the manufacturing experts at Amtech. Learn more and let us help you envision your next project with a free Design for Manufacturing assessment at buildamtech.com/DFM.